Hey guys, welcome to the Challenge Podcast. I'm Coach Steve.
And I'm Coach Nick, and we're going to be talking about everything fitness, health, and the challenge.
Let's get on with the show.
What's up guys, Coach Steve here and welcome back to another episode of the Challenge Weekly Show. In today's episode, I'm joined with our co-host, Coach Nick. Nick, how are we doing today?
I'm really well, thanks, Coach Steve. I'm really good. How are you?
Nick, look, I am going to start the podcast by highlighting that I'm not well, Nick. I really am not well.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, you might be able to hear it in my voice. And if the podcast kind of gets edited really choppily, it's because we had to kind of stop because I have a bit of a coughing fit and blow my nose and I've come back. Now, last week, sorry, we weren't able to do a podcast because I was really unwell, and this is just the tail end of it, Nick. So hopefully we can get through this really well and my voice can stay strong for us here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nick, it's an exciting time of the challenge. Like always, it's week 12, the final week of the challenge. And gosh, it flies by so quickly every time, hey?
Yeah, I know. I can't believe it. I just cannot believe it. It's crazy.
It's insane. And, you know, right now we're recording this on Tuesday, the 2nd of May, so close to Star Wars Day, May the 4th. But the end of the challenge is wrapping up this weekend. So this Sunday, which is the 7th of May, is the end of the challenge. And once we reach the end of the challenge, that's when we really start to see these amazing transformations flooding our social media feeds like Facebook and on Instagram, and also on the M Challenge app as we transition into voting, which is going to be next week, Nick, which is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the results of all of that. That's what we work for.
Now, public voting opens next week, so next Wednesday, and that's the 10th of May. So public voting is very separate to the main primary M Challenge competition, okay? So that means that, you know, public voting, if you're involved in public voting and you see that you're collecting votes, which is amazing, and you may not be in the top 50 or the top 10 in the public votes, that does not mean that you cannot get in the top 50 or the top 10 in the main competition, because it's completely separate. That also means that if you are the person with the most public votes, that doesn't mean that you win the challenge. You may place in the top 10 or something similar, but you may not win the challenge. So there's very separate competitions, okay? Now, public voting is open from Wednesday the 10th until Sunday the 14th of May. So you have 5 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to cast your public vote, and you can do that all through the M Challenge app. Now, Nick, many people are asking, when do I need to upload my final photo by? When do I need to upload my final photo? Now, you can upload your final photo from this Friday, and there's no real close date to upload your final photo. However, if you want to be part of the public voting, you would want to upload your final photo before public voting opens. So by the Tuesday the 9th, so when Wednesday the 10th comes around, your photo is uploaded and ready for public voting. You could upload it, on the Wednesday or the Thursday or the Friday, but you might miss out on some people's votes who've cast their votes like on the Wednesday. And if you upload it on Friday, you might have missed out on them judging you and you collecting their votes. So you want to upload it as soon as you can. You can access the completion document right now, so you can actually find it on the M Challenge app in the announcements, and also on our Facebook social hub, and also in your emails. So the end document is required in your final photo, somewhere in the photo. Let it be, in your hand, on the floor, on a tablet, on your device, stuck to a wall behind you. It needs to be visible in your final photo. Okay. Now, moving forward in time, the top 50 is announced on Wednesday, the 17th of May. So that's a good 2 weeks from now, 17th of May. And then we have our awards night, which is on Friday, the 19th of May, where we'll be announcing the top 10 and top 3 finalists for the February challenge. And you can also view them from the M Challenge app on Friday night from 8 p.m. So exciting times coming up over the next couple of weeks, Nick.
What are you wearing to the thing?
Well, look, I'm going to be just a traditional male and wear a white shirt and a tie, and probably get away with it for quite a while, because that's what we can do, right?
Yep, that's cool.
Yeah,
until does your shirt still fit though? Like, as in your guns, are they exploding out of the shirt?
Oh, look, Nick, right now, because I've been quite unwell and I've been struggling to eat and drink and train and all the good things, I think I've kind of deflated a little bit over the past week. That doesn't mean I've lost muscle. I'm just not as hydrated and not as pumped as I normally am. So I think right now that show will be nice and fitting. But hopefully in the next couple of weeks I can get that pump back and I can make that shirt nice and tight again, I reckon.
Yeah, perfect. I can't wait.
Now, Nick, lots of chatter about the next challenge. So when's the next challenge after this February challenge? Now, we are looking at a challenge starting in June. So we're going to take a few weeks off in between challenges starting in June. And we are looking at running a 6-week challenge. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not 100% confirmed yet, but we're looking at running a 6-week challenge. So keep your eyes peeled. As soon as we confirm everything and have everything all sorted, you will know about it. You'll find out on social media. You'll find out via the app. You'll find out via emails. You'll know about it. You won't miss out. So next challenge is coming around. It'll come around really quickly, I reckon.
Definitely.
Now, Nick, before we move on to the community highlights, I want to talk about sickness, okay? Because I'm unwell, and I've spoken about it already in this podcast, and we inevitably get questions about being unwell on the forum, especially over the past couple of years with COVID lingering around, and especially as we move into winter time, we get questions. Oh, I'm sick, I'm unwell. What do I do? Should I train when I'm sick? Okay. And I thought we'd give a little bit of advice about training when we're sick. Okay, so Nick, I thought I'd start off very quickly. For me, I always try to do some sort of physical activity when I'm unwell. I of course need to scale it accordingly. So I need to regress it or auto regulate it. So an example, the other day, it was legs day and I had squats on my program, and I had 140 kilos programmed for 8, which okay, that's okay numbers. But as I'm warming up, I go under the bar, and I was warming up with 70 kilos, so 125 plate on each side. And as I unracked the bar, I just felt the compression. Nick, you know that feeling where you have the bar on your shoulder and you just feel it? And as soon as I felt that, I was like, oh, this is not going to be fun. So I took, 1 step, 2 steps back, lowered myself down for a squat, and it just felt like trash. Like my hips felt stiff, my midsection felt stiff and tight, not in a good way. And then I felt like I had no power, and I was like, oh gosh, how am I going to double this weight for 8 if I could struggle with 70 kilos for 1? So what I needed to do on that particular day was I regressed the weight. So I managed to work up to 120 kilos, so a little bit less, and I was only able to get 5 reps out instead of 8. So it wasn't as what I had programmed down, and it wasn't what I was normally doing, but it was, getting some movement and getting a little bit of a pump to what my abilities were. Now, I'm pretty fortunate. I have a home gym, so me being unwell, I can go into my home gym and have a tissue next to me and whatever and train. But if you're in a public setting, it's probably not wise to be out in public while you are contagious. So if you're in that space, probably not best to be training in a formal setting when you're unwell. But that doesn't mean that you can't get things like your steps in. So going out, getting some fresh air, getting some sunshine, getting your steps up is something that you can definitely do while you are unwell. Of course, depending on the scale of how unwell you are. And you might feel better by doing some physical activity, get the blood pumping, get some endorphins going. You might be like, hey, I actually feel good even though I'm unwell. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other question we get a lot is about dieting. I'm unwell. Should I keep dieting? How should I change my calories? So, Nick, what advice would you give to someone around dieting if they're unwell?
In general, I mean, it depends on what your appetite's doing. I wouldn't be trying to adhere to, just say you're trying to eat 5 meals a day and you don't feel like doing it, then I would listen to that. I would allow your body to kind of guide you in terms of that. I would try and make sure that you're definitely hydrated as a priority, and consuming enough to give you energy to recover. But certainly it's not the time to be trying to make sure that everything's absolutely on point with adhering to your calories. However, also it's not really the time to be shoveling in junk as well. Just the old Easter eggs that are on top of the fridge or that sort of thing, because sometimes your body's a bit low on energy and you can kind of think, oh gosh, all I can eat is just instant kind of palatable sugary things. So just be aware of that as well, because it will be, the energy dip will kind of make you think that you just need to eat lots of millions of sugary things, but not that there's anything wrong with that either, but just stay adherent and just chill. So don't worry too much about it until you get better. Is that what you've been doing?
Yeah. So here's a fun one for you. Coach Steve, the fitness guy, on the probably the worst day of my so what actually happened, Nick, is RSV. So if you're familiar with that, RSV, and I had a bit of like a laryngitis going as well. So my throat was really sore. And you know when you have a really sore throat, you know, do you ever have a craving for toast? You know, and you want toast just to kind of scratch your throat. So that was the only thing I really wanted, was just some toast, right? And then Laura, beautiful soul, made me some soup as well. So I had a bit of toast, bit of soup, bit of toast, bit of soup, and that's all I really ate for the day. And that day I felt like trash. And, you know, I had this reflection being like, gosh, all I've really eaten today is like bread in the form of toast, and then, you know, some pumpkin soup. You know, I haven't really had my normal dose of just like a range of foods, a range of vitamins and minerals, right? And it just got me thinking like, gosh, like, am I feeling so trash today because I just haven't gotten my fix of like vitamins and minerals, right? So I said to Laura, I'm like, I need to have something green. You know, I need to get something green. So, you know, we're now got a bag of spinach, and you know, ended up having like a spinach sandwich, right? It was amazing. But yeah, it just makes me think like when we're unwell, we often go to our go-tos, like maybe like you said, Nick, like the chocolate, or you know, maybe some foods that might not be as nourishing, and that might be fueling the unwellness in a way. And you might feel better if you did hydrate a little bit more and ate some vitamins and minerals. You might feel a little bit better, I reckon.
Yeah, you were going for food that's the color of my jacket. Not that anyone can see it, but it's green.
It's green. The other comment I would make is that for those diehard dieters out there that are really adamant to stick with their calories, it would be wise to not be in a strong or heavy energy deficit while being unwell. And you might benefit from being in a maintenance or in a slight surplus when you are a bit unwell, to allow your body to recover. Because ultimately you're dealing with stress. Like being sick is a stress placed on your body. Being in an energy deficit is a stress placed on your body. So if you are adding more stresses to yourself, it might delay like the healing time. So it's probably wise to aim for like a maintenance range of calories, not being in a really strong energy deficit while you're unwell, and you may find you feel a little bit better.
Good.
Now, Nick, let's move on to our next segment here. We have the community highlights. Now, some of these highlights, Nick, I believe are from the past 2 weeks, because we missed out on last week again. Sorry, because I was a bit unwell. So Nick, take us away. Who would you like to highlight this week over the past couple of weeks?
Okay, so Wendy McGarvey, she's been quite active anyway. So this is just a snippet from Wendy. Hi, Wendy. So she goes, here's for a terrific Tuesday. So that's great, because it is actually Tuesday today, I think, anyway. So cool. Sun's out, young buddy coming out for a walk and talk. And yes, I agree, for those enjoying ice baths or early morning swims, both are excellent. My dad always said, finish with a cold shower.
Love that.
Nice.
I love that. And yeah, you know, say what you would about cold showers and ice baths. You know, they're really popular right now in the cryotherapy world. But, you know, when you do have that cold shower, it is always weirdly refreshing. And you always kind of feel like, oh, something's changed in me after this cold exposure. And so, Wendy, I think your dad's onto something.
Yeah, I would listen. I like a bit of ice, strategically placed to make sure that I'm not, you know, inhibiting my gains. I want the inflammation, believe me.
Well, you're right, Nick. Yeah. Without going too much into it, but if you are trying to use ice baths for recovery, it may be blunting the hypertrophy response. So it might be a little bit overrated for recovery.
Unless you want to run a marathon, and then it doesn't matter.
Then it doesn't matter. Yeah.
But we'll go into it another time. But yeah, it's awesome. Awesome topic. Okay, speaking of ice baths, I believe the next person is an ice bath king. That's Ben Fitz. So he says, on top of the mountain, a big walk up to the top of Mount Tomaree. I hope that that's pronounced the right way, but lovely. Good on you, Ben. See, he's a bit of a multifaceted human being. He loves his gym, but then a little bit of hiking, nothing wrong with that. We love that.
Yeah, so good. And I remember seeing this post, Nick. It was him with a bit of a selfie up on top of the mountain.
Mm.
Really cool, and I love that. Really embracing the fitness lifestyle. So go Ben, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's why we do it, really. We train so that we can just jump on, run up mountains if we want to. It's not just about stepping on stage. It's like 1 second of your life.
Yeah.
Okay, next one, Sarah Pepper. Just started attempting to do some final photos, have been working very hard, but not only at losing weight, but getting more mobile, was excited at fitting into smaller jeans and finally being able to walk 10,000 steps daily. Then saw my photos and saw old Maxine final shoot from 2020. Wow, better come back for the next challenge. So 2020. Okay, that's all. Yeah. Have a long way to go. I'm finally learning to be kind to myself. A big thank you to all of you encouraging us along the way. It is going to be a slow process, but I will get there. Did I say I need another challenge? Kidding, I need a few. Haha, she says. So good on you, Sarah. It's okay. I mean, it's you versus you. And sometimes it's great to have photos for reference, but often if you're trying to compare yourself to an old version of you a few years ago, there could be way different circumstances going on. So I would really just try and bring it back to what you've achieved in the last 12 weeks. Sounds really good. It sounds like you're on the right track to actually ending up being better because you've got more education than what you had before. You're older and you're a wiser owl.
Older and wiser owl.
Yeah.
What a hoot.
No, yeah, what a hoot. Not a young owl, but a young owl's still wise. That's what I would like to know.
Are they born wise?
Because owls are all wise. I mean, comment down below.
No, that's awesome, Sarah. And it's a great reflection. You know, your goal was to lose some weight, but also get more mobile, which is awesome. Just be cautious of the self-depreciation. You should be proud of the effort that you've put in. And we all will say that we have a long way to go. Like I have a long way to go. Nick, I'm sure you look at yourself and go, I got a long way to go too. And so there's some of us that's motivating, for some of us it's like, the journey's never over. But for others, we need those short-term goals, right? Those milestones to reach. So if you're constantly living in, 10 years from now, you might be missing out on what's happening in the moment right now. So remember to celebrate your wins, and don't be caught up too far ahead, right? Because you might not get that good feeling that comes from it, right?
Yeah, and just with that in the fitness culture, sometimes it's always about being better, but then just reflect on where you've come from and you'll probably realize just how well you've done.
So good. Nick, I've got a couple I'd like to highlight this week. So first one goes out to previous grand champion Jin Eastop. And Jin writes, #setup Sunday. Smoothies for breakfast this week. I tried this combo today, including some powdered peanut butter. It was the absolute bomb. Chicken cashew nut stir fry for lunch, post-workout protein ready to go. Don't let the end of the challenge be the end of your habitual routines, peeps. Let them become part of your daily life whether or not you are taking part in the challenge. 3 exclamation marks. Congrats to everyone on your continued achievements and contribution to this amazing group. Have an awesome week. Look, Nick, I think Jin really wraps it up here and summarizes it well, where the habits, routines, the lifestyle of the challenge should not be just for 12 weeks or for 6 weeks or for the challenge or for a period of time. It should be something that we do. And, #setup Sunday is a great routine to get into where you spend some time on Sundays to prepare for the week ahead. And that could be to do some meal prep. That might be to plan out when you're going to train, or heck, even just plan your life. Being like, okay, Tuesdays I'm going to do this, Wednesday I'm going to do this, Thursday I'm going to do this. Great. Set up the week so that you're ready to go. So making a part of your life. Jin, thanks for saying that. It's awesome.
Very good. Go, Jin. I love your tips and you're a successful person. So success leaves clues.
So good. Nick, next one here comes from Karen Weir, and Karen's been super active on our Facebook social hub and recently training with another challenger, Jody Matarget. And Karen writes, update to my massage today, because she went and got a massage, I believe. So I only paid for a neck and shoulders massage, $55 for 30 minutes. What a bargain. The lady gave me a full back, neck and shoulders massage and a foot soak. Gosh, lucky. I think it's because I told her she had strong arms and you could see her veins. She even gave me a flex and then grabbed my bicep. I had a winner of a day. Headache is now gone. Gosh, Nick, I think you can go so far when you start the flex salute, right? When you notice someone else's biceps, they notice your biceps, give each other the old bicep salutes. So good. So Karen, congratulations. You scored yourself a bit of a upgrade to your massage for that win. That's huge.
Usually anyone who's giving you a massage or if you get your nails done or anything, they'll certainly let you know what you're looking like or how your muscles feel. It's a really good test to know where you're at because they'll tell you.
Yep. Nick, when I had my clinic, I used to see quite a number of bodybuilders, so INBA pros come and see me, and they would often ask me like, oh, can you see any asymmetries, right? Because bodybuilding is all about balances. And for them it's really hard. I mean, you would relate to this. It's really hard to see imbalances in your body, but for me, you see lots of bodies, you could start to see where it's not balanced, and when you see in someone who's very muscularly developed, let's say their left shoulder, maybe their left pec is less developed than the right pec. And it's like, okay, well, I can see that difference. There might be something happening in that shoulder because your right pec is way more developed than your left pec. And they might say something like, oh yeah, I struggle with my left shoulder because of X, Y, and Z reasons, or when I do a dip, I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. So you can start to see like clues, from the way that they look. So yeah, if you want an objective view of your body, maybe where to improve, go check out, massage therapist, osteo, someone like that, someone who works for bodies for a living, that they will be able to give you an objective opinion. Nick, final one here goes out to Jill Collins, and it's a little bit of an accountability highlight for Jill. And Jill writes, I've really enjoyed this challenge. Although I haven't lost much fat, I've certainly gained some muscle. Unfortunately, I got very sick on my recent trip to Bali and won't be able to finish the challenge. I'll see you next round. So Jill, this is an accountability for you, buddy. We'll see you next round, and we're excited to see what you can do.
Yeah, good on you. That's fine. These things happen, just as we were talking about before. So take the wins and come back stronger. So
good. Nick, let's move on to our final segment here. We have the question and answer segment. So first question here comes from Trisha. And Trisha writes, what's the reason for changing workouts every 4 weeks? Can you train the same for 12 weeks? Nick, what advice would you give to Trisha?
Well, the thing is, I mean, technically you can. It's just about periodization and your favorite thing in the world, your mesocycles, Coach Steve. So it's just so you can progress those particular exercises in an efficient way, I suppose, within the 12 weeks. And then you can actually progress within those exercises, and then you can change to a variation of those exercises. So if you notice, even though it says the training plan changes, it's usually just a variation of that same movement. Say like a squat might turn into a front squat. So it's a way to progress. So because if you're doing, just say you're not new to training and you are doing a squat for 12 weeks, there's only so much you can progress with a particular squat pattern before you may want to just change it up. I mean, there are other things that you can do, but what we do is we have our mesocycles and we love them. And I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, the other thing is, if you think about it, it's similar to calories. Look, you can do the broad overview. You can have just your calories. You can train, you can move, or you can get more into the specifics that are going to really give you strength and body composition gains and changes, adaptations.
Yeah, progress. Nick, I think you really nailed it with adaptations and progress at the end there. My 10 cents is that, yes, I think you can follow the same training program for 12 weeks. I think the limitations is that, one, it might become stale. If you did the same thing every week for 12 weeks, it might become a bit stale. And two is that with training, we are trying to adapt to the stimulus. And we adapt really well to new stimulus, and we call that novel stimulus, right? So if you did the same thing for 12 weeks, you would need to either like increase the load, or increase the volume, or increase or change something over that 12-week period to continue to see adaptations. However, if we just change the exercise, we get a new novel stimulus, so we can use a lighter load and get a really great adaptation response to that. In terms of overall muscle growth, that slight adaptation, like let's say a lat pull down, you go from an overhand to an underhand, and alternate every 4 weeks. We actually hit different parts of the lat, so we get really rounded development. On the complete other side, if you change programs every week or 2 weeks, you may face other problems because, you don't get to adapt, right? You spend a week, you barely learn the new skill, so you don't really get a chance to adapt to that. So this 4, maybe 6 week period is a really nice way to kind of adapt to that training program. And it ends up being nice ways just to keep everything fresh and new every 4 weeks, but you're not completely changing the entire program, like you said, Nick. Maybe just small modifications, like a back squat to a front squat, a deadlift to an RDL to a sumo deadlift. It's the same movement pattern, just slightly differently.
Very good.
Nick, next question here comes from Mark, and Mark asks, hi, I'm happy with my progress this challenge and want to make sure I have a plan post-challenge to not undo my hard work. Researching reverse dieting and wondering if you'd recommend it coming out of the challenge. As far as I understand, the best way is to add 50 to 100 calories per week until I reach maintenance calories of my ideal weight. Thanks, Mark. Mark, big question here. Now, reverse dieting was first coined by a researcher named Eric Trexler, and this was just a few years ago where he brought it up. And the idea was that it's a strategic way to increase your calories back to maintenance, Mark, like you suggested. Now, Eric also came out recently and said that, it might be a little bit overrated, the idea of reverse dieting, mainly from an adherence point of view. And then on a physiological point of view, we don't see any significant differences between a staged reverse diet to just a switch over to your maintenance calories. Okay. Now, the benefit of a strategic or a strategy to move to maintenance is that once you've dieted, you've changed your body weight, you've changed your fitness level, you've changed your overall metabolism, your energy expenditure. So your predicted maintenance calories might be different from when you started, and it might be difficult to predict your maintenance calories. So if you were dieting and you're consuming, let's say, 2,000 calories, and you think that your maintenance calories is 2,500 calories, you might be wrong with that. So if you just switch over to 2,500 calories, a 500 calorie increase, you might find that that's not really your maintenance, and your true maintenance is maybe 1,400 calories. So your body maybe adds a very, 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 very small amount of body fat with that. Okay, so a strategic way might be to slowly increase your calories per week until you reach a point where your body weight is plateaued or at homeostasis or not changing. So if you are consistently losing weight at a rate of 0.5 to 1% per week, you slowly increase your calories by maybe 50 to 100 calories per week over a course of, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks or maybe even 6 weeks until your body weight plateaus. So you're no longer losing weight anymore. Great. You have figured out your maintenance calories. So that is a great strategy. And look, I would personally, maybe not challenge wise, but personally recommend most people to go through a bit of a reverse diet so you can find your maintenance calories better, so you get a better understanding of your maintenance calories. However, it takes a lot of adherence, and it might be easier just to switch back to maintenance calories, and make small adjustments so that your body weight doesn't change too much. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also going to depend how lean you got as well. Sometimes I think because just your adherence is going to be a bit tested when you're doing your reverse if you got really lean because your hunger signals are all over the place. So yeah, all of that.
Yeah,
it depends.
It depends.
We love it depends, don't we?
We do. Nick, next question here. It does. Next question here comes from Tammy, and Tammy writes, be interested to know the coach's thoughts. Now we are in week 10, so it was a couple of weeks ago, this question, and I'm only down 5 kilos. Gosh, Nick, only down 5 kilos. Yes, that works out to be 0.5 kilos weekly, which is good, but considering I have at least another 10 kilos of fat to lose, I would have expected more on the scales. Maybe it's my age. Notes, I have hit minimum 10,000 steps every day, every single day. My nutrition has been 90% on target, everything tracked, weighed, etc. This past week is the first time I've missed a weight session the entire challenge. Help, she sends. Nick, what advice would you give to Tammy?
So Tammy, you sound like the ideal client because you haven't missed anything. You've tracked and weighed everything. You're hitting your step target, your nutrition target, and you've lost. I mean, I don't know your initial start weight, but you've lost by any half a kilo weekly basically is fairly freaking good in a consistent manner. What I would suggest is that is good. You need to keep going because there's obviously more to do. I think anything that you may have done previously without knowing you could have been something a little bit extreme. And we don't really advocate extremities here because that's where you will do the thing where you will rebound as soon as you start eating normally. But if you watch what we actually do here, you are eating normally. You're just possibly eating a little bit less of that and incorporating some new habits in. So it's actually then it's teaching you to maintain for life. So I would stick it out. It's not going to be a quick fix. So it sounds like you're a third of the way in. I would commit to seeing it through because you will get there. And when you get there, you will have probably not lost a significant amount of muscle mass. Whereas if you're just looking at dropping scale weight and you want to do it urgently and you want to drop a whole lot, unfortunately, it's not just going to be body fat. That's the thing. So if you do it slow and steady, you are going to retain your lean muscle mass, which is the stuff that actually is going to help you. If you look at the age thing, you want to have as much of that good stuff as possible as you do hit that time when your body goes through those hormonal changes. I.e. menopause, perimenopause, all those sorts of things. You want to retain that lean muscle mass. If you'd have said that you'd lost 15 kilos, apart from the number being like a massive number, I would have said that's too much. And I mean, depending on obviously your start weight, but I really think that slow and steady is going to help you in the long run more than what you think losing another 10 kilos will immediately. I think that would exacerbate any problems down the track to do with age and things. If you're dropping that, then guaranteed if you're doing it quickly, it'll be at least 5 kilos of lean muscle. So and sundries. So I would keep going exactly as you're doing. I will help you by telling you stay doing what you are doing. Don't change it. You are there. You just need to keep going. And this is the bit where a lot of people are going to get annoyed and say, I haven't reached what I want to reach. I'm going to reverse it. So what are you going to do? You're going to go backwards and have to lose all of that again? Or you're going to keep going? You tell me, Tammy, you tell me.
Nick, what a response. I love that. And
talk.
yeah, look, my 10 cents for Tammy is that, we need context. Saying that you lost 5 kilos, did you start at 50 kilos because that represents 10% of your body weight? Or did you start at 150 kilos because that, represents 1.5% of it. Like it's very different. So that's the first thing that we need is where your starting weight is, because if you're losing 0.5 kilograms per week, that could be right on our weight loss rate, which we suggest, which is 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week. So you might be in the target, in the zone, great, and you just need some patience. If you are starting at a higher body weight and 0.5 kilos per week is less than 0.5% of your body weight, hey, maybe you need to increase your energy deficit, right? And this is without going into that statement of I need to lose at least another 10 kilos of fat. How do you even measure that? I don't know, but let's just make that assumption. So it just needs a bit of context, I think, for this question.
Yeah, definitely. We need context. But look, I'm going to go with our average person, and I would say that you're pretty much almost smack bang. That's what I'm just doing, because sometimes when you can't have all the context, you got to go with the average. So like, let's just say it's about your 70 kilo or so. I could be wrong. So you can tell me.
That's so good. Nick, final question here comes from Rochelle, and Rochelle, straightforward, asks, are DOMS indicative of muscle growth? Whew. So let's talk about it. And we have spoken about this in the past, maybe 20 or plus weeks ago. Now, DOMS stands for delayed onset muscle soreness. And I think we've all experienced DOMS before, where we've completed a bout of exercise or physical activity. That could be doing a boot camp, doing a weightlifting session, doing gardening, doing chores, right? Whatever it is, moving house. We do a bout of physical activity, and then either the next day or potentially the day after, potentially 2 days after, we are experienced with a delayed onset muscle soreness. So this kind of soreness from the muscle. Now, this is very different to like a joint soreness. So if you've trained legs, you might feel that your, quads and your glutes are really sore, but not the knees, not the hips, right? Or if you've gone for a really long walk and you feel that your calves are really sore, not the ankles, not the knees. So the muscle soreness. Now, in physical therapy, we actually relate DOMS to, a very, very low level, muscle strain, right? So it's not really a grade 1, it's like a grade 0 muscle strain. It's a very low level muscle strain because essentially you've strained the muscle. You've applied too much load that the muscle was ready for. So are DOMS indicative of muscle growth? The direct answer is no, but there's a comma and a but in that answer. So no, comma, but. Now, DOMS in terms of a scale, right? Where if you had no DOMS, little DOMS, some DOMS, high amount of DOMS. The amount of DOMS that you have is not indicative of muscle growth. That means that the more sore you become, that doesn't mean more muscle growth. But if you do not experience muscle DOMS or haven't experienced it in a really long time, that might be a sign that you are not applying an adequate stimulus for adaptation. So that might mean that your intensity is not high enough, your volume is not high enough, or your execution of an exercise is not high enough, or the exercise choices that you make might not be appropriate for the muscle. So for example, as we become more advanced, we struggle to experience DOMS because we have a baseline of fitness or readiness to complete an activity across most of our muscle groups. So you do bicep curls, it's not challenging for the biceps. We know how to do that exercise. However, to get DOMS in your biceps, you could still get DOMS in your biceps. You would just need to train at a higher intensity and maybe do a few more bicep curls, right? So if you did, 2 sets of bicep curls in a workout, you might not feel DOMS. But if you did 30 sets of bicep curls, well, you probably feel it the next day. So you increase the volume. If you were training with your gym bro, your gym broette, and they were doing negative bicep curls with you and forcing reps and such, really high intensity training, you're doing lots of rest pause sets, and weird supersets and all this crazy stuff, you would probably be sore the next day. Or if you really isolated your bicep in the bicep curl and really pumped out the bicep, gosh, you'd really feel it the next day. So there are ways that we can get DOMS again. So if you are not experiencing DOMS or haven't experienced DOMS in a really long time, it may be a sign of areas that you can improve on or reflect on. Maybe you need to train better. Maybe you need to train at a higher intensity, add more volume in. Because as we add more volume in, these are synonymous with muscle growth, hypertrophy signals, adequate growth, adequate volume, adequate intensity. These are all big ticks in the hypertrophy muscle growth world, which are also big ticks in producing DOMS. So the main takeaway is no, DOMS are not indicative of muscle growth. However, DOMS are a byproduct to the activities that cause muscle growth. So if you don't experience DOMS or haven't experienced DOMS in a really long time, you may not be applying an adequate stimulus for adaptation. If that makes sense.
Yes, I agree.
Nick, let's wrap it up there for episode number 109 of the Challenge Weekly Show. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know. And hopefully next week, my voice feels a lot better and we can be a bit more animated for episode number 110.
No one would have known.
No one would have known.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it still feels croaky, but it's okay. We'll get through. See you then.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you like the show, share it with a friend.
Or leave us a review on iTunes to spread the good word. See you next time.